Francisco, thank you so much for being here. I'm so honored to have you here on this episode of Melting the Ice. What can I say?
I'm thrilled that you asked me.
I mean, you have an amazing story, and I ever since I started this podcast, you were one of the people that immediately came to mind. So I'm glad that now it's coming to fruition. You know.
Great. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes.
And however I could help with your project.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Fran, you have a really, really profound, deep story that I think, and this is really the reason why I wanted you to be on the show, because I think that your story is the kind that can really just hit anybody who's going through any kind of a transformation, a transition, you know. And I think that's we all do that in our lives. We all
which happens a lot.
Which happens
maybe to most people.
Probably to most
people.
Some
transition.
Yeah.
And in fact, I talk about the benefits of getting comfortable with doing a transition of your gender applies to so many other transitions in your life.
Yeah.
Job, family, what happens as a result of death or illness. Right. Or a natural disaster. I spoke to a woman coming here that I offered her and her family some clothes. Her house was burnt out in the Bronx.
Wow.
And luckily no one got hurt, but they lost everything.
Right.
And so that transformation that she's going through and transition she's going through, you need to get through things like that. You need some experience. So whatever experience she does go through, she's looking at the brighter side, how it's brought the family together, you know, the silver linings and things like that. And whatever strength she builds up from this experience, she can carry into another experience. So I especially like to talk about transitioning gender to young people who are not comfortable with it, you know, especially, you know, people that are minors, you know, under age 18 and stuff. They're just feeling their way with gender, you know, they're thinking of it as a secret not to share, and then therefore they're lost in their own head about it, and it's not good. You need to really share things, and what's very important to you, you need to share. So there's a lot of very positive things that came out of transitioning my gender, and I think that's what you're alluding to is in my story, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you also, I want to mention, you have not only just in your gender, but you've also gone through a transition from left brain to right brain. I believe.
Yes. I was not only, 100% left brain and then now 100% right brain. I'm sort of a blend of the two. I think a very good blend. And just for the people watching that may not know or that familiar with it, left brain people are, and it's tough to categorize people and stereotype people.
Yeah.
But people who have a predominant left brain are very strong with analytical thinking and linear thinking, and they think in the present usually or past.
I see.
And logical, rational,
right.
That type of thing. And those people often are engineers or doctors or accountants like me, a CPA like me, or they get into professions that cater to that. Even say an auto mechanic. My father was an auto mechanic. That takes a lot of analysis and discipline. You got to really know math. You need spatial ability to really do this stuff.
Yeah.
So those are those professions. A right-brained person, is mostly into the arts, creative. They think more laterally. They accept ideas that come out of the blue and they incorporate them in their life rather than going about things methodically or analytically. So there's less linear analysis and more lateral thinking. And in addition, things like sensibility and family relationships and all that plays a much bigger part with right brain people. So when I grew up, I would grow up mainly as a left brain person because I was skilled, or I had some aptitude on the left side. I was very strong with math. As I grew older, I got into accounting in high school and then in college, and I was pretty good at, and also thinking things through, planning and stuff. And the right side brain of myself took a back seat. My poetry, my art, and things like that. I put on shows as a kid, as a 5 or 6 year old, I put on these shows, but it was always lowest in priority.
Sure.
And so as I grew older, I would do poetry, slams, and things like that. But I would write music. I would write poetry and write music and songs. But it was at the end of the day, or it was, not part of my everyday life.
Yeah.
So I felt that I was like this bifurcated person. I was a left brain, and I had right brain things. I'd go to a movie and be really turned on by the movie and cry, which was more a left brain. Crying was being aware of senses and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And emotions was more a right brain thing than, and that was mostly associated with females who are better at supposedly better at relationships.
Yeah.
And sensitivity and stuff like that. And left brain, typically, at least when I grew up, men were the more analytical types and things like that. So that was also a contributing factor to my gender confusion, is because I was really a right brain person living in a left brain world, and I felt out of water. Like a fish out of water with that. So what I would do is I would try to be creative while I was doing, say, accounting, but it wasn't necessary. So I was square, peg, round hole kind of thing. I was doing things that weren't really matching.
Right.
Or I wasn't feeling they were really matching properly.
Right.
And I didn't give my right brain enough credit or ammunition to really flourish. So when I transitioned to female, when I say that, I mean, one day I stopped wearing male clothes. I stopped referring to myself as Frank, and it became Fran, and that was to everyone. Now, for many years before that, I would cross-dress, and there was a confusion of gender that way, but I would get out of my system this need to be female, which it wasn't only a need to be female and looked on as a female, definitely not from a sexual perspective. It was really from perspective of my right brain. I wanted to be accepted as more artistic. Now, some people may think, well, that sounds crazy because Da Vinci was very, very artistic.
Sure.
And he was a man.
Right.
So you don't have to be a man to be artistic. Some of the best songwriters and stuff like that have been men. But in my life, for me, because I identified right brain with females, the females in my life, my mother, my grandmother, my aunts, my friends' parents, they were all female, all the artistic people.
Right.
And all the sequential thinking people were male.
Right.
On the left side. So that's how my brain was kind of wired, and the appearance would reinforce that. So when I appeared as a female, I felt more right brain. So I think that that's an important thing for young people to really, and for older people who are in the process of questioning their gender, because they may be in the wrong job.
Yeah, they might be.
They may be,
Yeah.
Maybe an engineer really should be a visual painter.
Sure, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or a painter perhaps should be an architect.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, and whatever that mismatch is, that's causing confusion, which often comes out or gets, massaged through alcoholism, drugs, obsessive compulsive behavior, all of those things. Many of those are, in my opinion, due to a mismatch of left and right brain. Contributing to other things that are happening in one's life. So,
Sure. Yeah.
So I've written a book about that called
Yes.
Left Brain, Right Brain, and the Soul.
Yeah.
And I finished the book. It's too long right now. It's about 1,400 pages.
Wow.
So it's got quite a bit of research in it, but it also has a lot of other things in it, like different techniques that one could use to get better integrated. So in the end, the best thing, the ideal, the goal would be to integrate your left and right brain.
Right, to put them as one.
And be more holistic.
Right.
And by being holistic, you can then see in life much, much more. You could see more in life through the eyes of, for example, I believe a trans person who has seen both sides of life can see things differently. There's more collateral beauty around them that they can see because of seeing things from a typical male perspective, typical female perspective, and then an overall holistic perspective where you're blending the two. So anyway, getting maybe a bit technical.
No, but this is, again, Fran, because all this is just such vital in information, and I think that so much of what you said, especially about, people falling into, whether it's alcoholism, substance use disorder, or some kind of OCD or whatever, it's all about lining up with our truths, quite frankly. What I wanted to ask you, after reading your play, your autobiography, Once a Boy, which is just an absolutely beautiful piece, might I add.
Thank you.
And as you had just mentioned, for a little bit, you had, some years where, you would be presenting maybe mostly as male, but then you'd go to conventions or whatever, and dress as female. And if I'm not mistaken, it was on 1/11/2011 that you finally transitioned to. So,
and there were many years up to that. So from age 10, at least 10, maybe before that, I had this gender confusion that sometimes is called gender dysphoria. I never really felt that I felt like I had a secret that I couldn't share with anyone.
Sure.
I didn't feel defective. I actually felt like I had this other thing,
Not
necessarily being proud of it, but because I couldn't share it, but not, I wasn't that hard on myself. As I grew older, I realized that there were other people like me. And so what I would do is I would find that there was a convention held with 700 men dressed up as females for a week, for 3 days, and I would go to it and I'd be like in heaven and I find out that the guys there were very much like me. They were in their own business. When they were young, they were scrappy, very macho kids, boys and stuff like that. So, and they had this left brain, right brain confusion sometimes. And so all of a sudden I was around all these people that were very much like me. Outwardly, the only thing that we had in common was that we both liked to wear a dress. But when we got into it, most of us were married to females with children, with houses, and all of the traditional American ideals were still inside, but we harbored the secret, secret.
Yeah.
And so that continued for a long period of time. That put stress on my marriage.
Sure.
My wife stayed with me. My wife Lori stayed with me, thank God. But it did definitely alter because she really didn't want to accept me. She loved me. She didn't want to accept me as a female.
Right.
And so what happened is I presented her with this decision that on 1/1/11 I was going to spend the rest of my life as a female, and I was going to start taking hormones and things like that to help that along. And she said that it would not be possible for us to live together. She wouldn't want to live together. So it was, and at the same time, her mother was very sick, so she needed to take care of her for Alzheimer's. So she got an apartment with her mother, who moved up from Florida, and was in a sort of assisted living facility. She left there, and the two of them lived together. Mom just passed away about 3 weeks ago and stuff. But that caused us to split, and me to further develop as a female. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I didn't count on happening, but what happened is it was an explosion of creativity that happened, because all this pent up creative energy that I had that was kind of tied down by my left brain.
Sure.
And also by my profession. I found ways to do my left brain work more efficiently, make as much money to keep the lights and paid, but at the same time I was able to further my female self.
Right.
My trans self actually became even more important than female. I just mention this, is that often people think that a trans person, transgender person, is transitioning from one gender to another, from female to male,
right?
Or from male to female,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's a great increasing number who are transitioning from male to female, especially among the young. But I think, and there's a growing belief in this, is that being transgender is more like the Native Americans would think of two-spirited people. Is that middle ground of transitioning is very important, and maybe is the ultimate destination to be in. So originally I thought that, well, if I'm transitioning to female, I need to raise my voice, and I needed to do these gestures, and I needed to dress in a certain way and stuff. And I tried to live into what that preconceived notion was, until I finally realized, with the help of other people, that all I really needed to do was be myself naturally. And so that's why my voice is, it's not a falsetto, it's not a high voice. That's why sometimes I still do many of the things a guy, typical guy would do, But here I go in my speech, you can hear typical guy, I'm still in stereotypes to an extent.
I mean, these things have been ingrained in us, so
it
makes sense that they might be lingering around. But I mean, just the awareness of kind of like shifting some of those things, I think is really important.
So my being my true self has allowed me, I think, to have a greater listening for other people who want to be their true self. And what I found is that often people aren't their true selves because of limitations and problems. So it's sort of like, well, you're not like that, you can't do that, that type of thing. Or there have been restrictions because of race or age or all these other things. So I've become an advocate, really, because of my experience. I've become an advocate for people to live their true self, and for society. I believe in social justice and social change. A lot of my art shows that, to bring about change, to get people to move more into who their true self is. And knowing that you should never get to finally know your true self, because then you stop growing, because our true self is always growing, is always changing, always getting better, hopefully.
Right.
And so it's a lifelong learning And my transition helped me greatly in that, and also helped me artistically in ways that shock me still. That I have. Gee, I'm talking a lot.
No, this is what we wanted. You're doing great, Fran.
All right. Well, what I found is that I always was a quick learner. You know, in school I was always a quick learner, but more academically.
Sure.
You know, now what I find in my autistic self is I can follow through and do things.
Right.
Because I have a can-do attitude.
Right.
And my transitioning and my movement from left brain to right brain helped me develop that can-do attitude. So when right after I transitioned and came out to my parents and my wife and my daughter and my friends and my clients, I have a CPA business. I have about 100 clients now. I have maybe even about the same then, different clients possibly. When I had to do that, it was going to be a lot. So I figured I needed help. So what I did is I answered an ad for a comedy club, you know, that was doing classes, and I took classes. So I would go down every Sunday to a class along with other people that were trying to do comedy. And then I would spend 2 or 3 nights out at open mics developing my craft, my comedy craft. And I think I got pretty good pretty fast.
I think so too. I actually we should take this opportunity right now. Maybe here's a quick clip of a friend doing some stand-up comedy.
All right. All right. So we're gonna start the scene. It's gonna go for 3 minutes. All right. Hopefully you're gonna find it funny. We wrote it together.
Strangers in the night, wandering in the night.
Denise,
Oh, what are you doing here?
I need your help.
You're kidding me, right? You want my help? You cheat on me with the town pump and you want me to help you, Frankie? No.
Yes. Yes.
Is that my dress? You're wearing my clothes too now?
Listen, the mob is after me. I ratted on Big Anthony, and now the feds say I gotta go deep undercover in witness protection. You gotta help me pass as a woman. Come on.
Yeah, so?
So, help me pass as a woman.
What's in it for me?
Well, I know what. You know that 50 grand that I buried in the side yard?
Yeah?
I'll tell you where I buried it.
Oh, why didn't you say so sooner? I'll help you right away, Frankie.
Good, help me.
Okay.
Help me pass as a woman.
Okay, you ready? Pay attention.
Okay.
Okay, you gotta use sex appeal. Men are suckers for sex.
Okay.
Okay, first things first. You gotta pay attention to the boobs. Show
Okay.
a little bit of cleavage. Pull your girls out. Frankie. You ruins those chances.
Okay.
Down the waistline.
right.
Smooth everything out. Hands on your hips, shoulders back, chest out,
Okay.
and stroll over to the boombox.
Let's see.
So, is that a gun in your pocket, or are you happy to see?
Okay, honey, go ahead, go in. Spot on, what a caboose on her.
Thank you.
Should I go now? Should I copy you? Okay. Okay. Is that a brujole in your pocket? Are you happy to see me? Do you want? Go ahead.
Is that a brujole in your pocket?
want to find out?
It'll cost you 50 large.
Tell me more
Yeah,
about
so
your...
for example, comedy
Yeah,
is a tremendous tool. You
right.
know? And actually, one of the first times I got into, right within the first month or so, I went and I saw a comedian, and I went up to him afterward, and I said, "Gee, how long did it take you to get good? You're really good and everything and stuff. And what provoked you? What got you into comedy?" And he says he had a horrible relationship with his father.
Wow.
And then he said to me, he said, "It's almost always that there's something going on that pushes you into comedy, something sad,
Yeah.
something that you need to get out of or through." And sure enough, he was right, that I was going through this period where there was some glee from transitioning, initial glee, but there was also a lot of constantly explaining myself to other people, and a little trepidation about what would happen with my relationship with my wife and stuff.
Sure.
So doing comedy in front of a group of people was therapeutic for me, and really got me to talk about all of that.
Right.
And by talking about it, other people, and then because I love to do selfies and selfie videos and stuff, I put them up on Facebook or the internet, and I was sharing myself, and I, really developed into this idea of the more you share, the greater people care, and the greater you care.
Right.
And that sharing is an amazing process, and so especially if you're in crisis or you have some stress, it's better out than in.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so this comedy, so then that's what I was doing. I was doing a lot of shows. I was booking my own shows. I was bringing other comedians together. And I was writing material, writing jokes, mostly on that topic of transgender. I wanted to focus on that.
Yeah.
And I think I did a pretty good job with that. And then I started writing other material, like songs, and I've written a number of songs. One is Happy Trans Girl.
Happy Trans Girl Like Me. Yes, I'll give you guys a little listen to Happy Trans Girl Like Me.
Do you want to be a cute, happy trans girl like me? Do you want to be a friendly, loving trans girl like me? Just kissy face, cheek to cheek, BFFs in a selfie. Wear that dress like you love each move your body makes. Love this crazy world. I give it much more than I take. Now that I live as a girl, I feel more authentic, not fake. Yes, trans, yes, trans, yes, trans, Fran. Yes, trans, yes, trans, yes, trans, yes, yes.
I'm in the shower like, yes, trans, yes, trans, yes, trans, friend. Like, yeah, no. It's...
My daughter Kelly was in a film. I made a film of this song, a 17-minute film, documentary that featured some of my comedy clips, some of my singing, that song, in maybe 20 different places around the country, and sometimes with my daughter by my side, my daughter Kelly. So my daughter Kelly is a phenomenal person who has accepted me full boat.
Kelly's great, yeah.
And so she and I, at the drop of a hat, we could start singing, "Don't you wanna be a cute, happy trans girl like me? Don't you wanna be a friendly, loving trans girl like me? Just kissy face, cheek to cheek, BFFs in a selfie. Wear that dress like you love each move your body makes." And then it goes on, and then it has a chorus in it, like you said. And that I've gotten thousands and thousands of views of the film the film, 17-minute film, I've won some awards based on that film, and not just not belittling it, but not only in LGBT circles or categories, but also in general categories. And then I made a music video taking the song and taking clips from the film, got it down to a 3.5 minute video, and in deference to or in honor of my brother who was hearing impaired, I had it captioned, subtitled in English for the hearing impaired to be able to see it and hear it.
Right.
And I tried to do it in a synchronized fashion. And then also in Italian, in honor of my family. 4 of my grandparents were from Calabria. And, that was very strong culture I grew up in when I was young in Mount Vernon, up until age 14. And so I've done this, and I have it titled both in English and in Italian, and that has, I think, contributed to it being more widespread than it would ordinarily have been. And so that song's been out there, and then that led me to making 3 other films, short films. And some of my friends, my friend Katrina Michio runs 3 different festivals, and she was very helpful in the early stages of that, and as is so many people, once you're living your true self and you got a smile about you, and you got some direction, and you have an ability to just jump into anything and do anything. So I did it with comedy and filmmaking. My poetry has improved so much. I got on, podcasts and things like that and shared my poetry with people who had no idea that I was a very good poet, and it's helped me in my stage presence. And then I started doing acting with Vinnie Pastore, I guess about 4 years ago now, and I really hadn't done any serious acting classes or workshops or acting other than now and then whatever I would do on the stage with comedy and stuff. But the discipline of acting, especially acting in front of a camera too, was phenomenal. And then Vinny turned me on referred me to other things and would get me involved in events. And then the Imperial Court of New York. So sort of like every week, every month was like a new or additional thing. Then someone would say, "Oh, you should join this organization called the Imperial Court of New York," which is an LGBT organization that does performances, raises money, sometimes as little as $1,000 in a bar because 3 girls are singing or 3 guys are singing, and then gives it to charity, or as big as a couple $100,000.
Yeah, wow. Huh.
So it's a real wonderful organization. And so for that, then I needed to bone up on better performance skills. So then that's how I got into that. And then I often go to a class, go to learning, pick the brains of other people that are in the business and stuff, and get out there and do. I was always doing, even beyond my pay grade. I was starting to perform. I've auditioned for some major things. I didn't have any major things, but I did get in Maine, the wonderful musical Maine that's filled with great music.
Yes,
and I had 2 or 3 parts in Maine. It was for Harrison Players in Westchester County.
Nice.
And that I broke the ice with that. And then after that I got in a couple of other plays and musicals, and I was sharing earlier that a friend of mine, it's not out of possibility. A friend of mine put on Facebook yesterday when Whoopi Goldberg was suspended from The View, for saying something off base about the Holocaust or something, and I don't really know the details about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's off for 2 weeks. So my friend Tom Sullivan, with whom I do co-host a radio show, called Crisis Help Radio Show.
Yeah.
He posted on Facebook. He called me after he posted. He posted on Facebook. He says, I highly recommend that you contact Francisco to sit in for the 2 weeks that Whoopi Goldberg's not in.
That would be something. I would vote for that.
So he said, I said, oh, that's good, Tom. Because he had recommended that once before. And actually, when he recommended it a couple of years ago, I did contact my manager, who I know through Vinny Pastore. And she did submit. They declined it, but she also submitted to several other morning shows because I've been on lots of panels. I have some, video of that and evidence of that and stuff.
Yes.
And so she did yesterday. So I sent over a text to her yesterday. Can you try? And she said sure. And so I don't know the results of it yet. Probably if they said yes, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, but
maybe.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's what life is all about.
Yeah,
Taking chances, breaking new territory, and stuff like that. And even with my art, my visual painting, my mom was an excellent painter, a representational painter. Do you know what the representational?
I don't think I do.
Paint in a detailed fashion. Like if you're painting, say, this plant here, you would paint it and it would look like the plant.
Oh, so like very like realistic.
Realism.
God, yeah.
And my mom was like that. She could you could feel like you were going to touch her.
Wow.
She was like phenomenal.
Huh.
And I think that's where I had really an ambition, or in my genes or something from her. But I got more into abstract painting. And that took a lot of effort, and I was squeezed for time. And I had these other ideas that I wanted to convey, and I liked the idea of conveying an idea through an abstract painting or drawing, whatever. And especially in this area of trans or in social justice. And so what I've done is I've focused abstract painting on that. And like Picasso used cubism, where you could see something almost in a couple of different dimensions, even though it's two-dimensional flat, by certain techniques, like you make this person looking this way and this person looking that way.
Right. And
if it's done in a certain way, it kind of looks odd, but it's a different level of enjoyment of the piece.
Sure.
So I broadened my horizons with art. I started doing a lot more abstract. I started getting into many different shows, art shows and stuff. And really, in fact, for the next in 3 days, I have to submit a piece that's due to be going into a show in New Rochelle, my hometown. In that show, and then I have another piece. So anyway, that piece that's going in there will show a person who will have right now his face is black. But what it will show, and I'm really into diversity and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. In fact, I'm on a committee with the Episcopal Actors Guild that tries to promote that concept.
Right.
We do. We have lots of meetings and lots of discussions with people. But this painting originally started as a blackface. I was trying to make a point of behind him are a bunch of policemen running after him.
Right, yeah.
And he's about to jump over this fence. And it's all in this one painting. Right. But there's the sun shining, and he has a little bit of a smile knowing that he is going to be getting to freedom soon. I think it was too dramatic the way I made it, and it didn't get into the exhibit that I did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it appeal on a more of a DEI level, and I'm going to color the face with each of the colors that stand for each race: yellow, red, black, brown, and what am I leaving out?
Guess white.
White.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So, and I'm going to make it like little pixels.
Huh.
So it'll be a blend of that person, blend of all these. So it'll be like a united view. I made a sculpture called Unity on that topic, and I took branches, dead branches from trees, stripped them, painted them, lacquered them, and then put them together, meeting together, talking about 12 feet high in some places. On the top of it, put a globe, actually a ball, like a yoga ball, those big balls, blue ball. Put that on the top, signifying the globe, and all these different branches, each branch represented a different thing. One represented race because of all those colors that I just mentioned. Another one represented use the LGBT colors or trans colors representing sexuality and gender. Another branch represented natural stuff like with greens and blues and things like that. So anyway, so I made a statement and on the importance of unity and DEI and stuff. So my painting has enlarged to now I do quite a few sculptures, these major sculptures, and I'm looking to get that. They've been in a number of different centers, one out in Livingston, New Jersey, with some friends out there have a center, an art gallery, beautiful art gallery.
Nice.
And I did one called was it Two in Love? It depicted two people who were in love, and it had the love. I used the love colors, but that the branches, they were similar, but they were not the same.
Yes.
Because people are different. They're attracted because they have some qualities that are the same and stuff.
Right.
So anyway, so this love of learning has been helped because of feeling that at least the work is decent, put it that way, and I can get it out there and I can get recognized for it, and I love it. And so then I go into another thing. So, I've always loved writing from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So then I have these books that are close to publishing, self-publishing, and then I got involved in playwriting. So I took classes in playwriting. Axial theater was very helpful for me with that.
Yeah.
And there were different instructors there, and you learn as much, say, from the fellow classmates and stuff like that. So before you know it, I was writing plays. And I put up a play and meeting people that could help. So I put up a play recently in October, beginning of October, called "It's an Italian Thing, No, It's a Black Thing." And it was a comedy, but also there's some dramatic moments in it.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know about that.
Yes.
You know about that play because you played a couple of scenes in that play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's and then you mentioned one once before, Once a Boy, which is an autobiographical play taking my life from age 10 to now, and showing the importance of you living your true self and how to balance that with caring for family and friends and doing the right thing. So love having this opportunity to talk about myself.
No, please. I just wanted to say quick, for all these, like for your 17-minute documentary, Happy Trans Girl Like Me, for a lot of your comedy clips. Also, I saw that there were some videos of some sculptures that you had made. All this you can find on www.transfrancisco.com.
Right.
You have an amazing website.
Thank you.
So much stuff. So if you want to see some more of the stuff besides just the stuff that I've showed you in the clips so far, please go to www.transfrancisco.com.
And Cisco spelled SISCO because many people spell it CISCO.
There you go.
Right?
SISCO.
So
Yes.
just to know that.
Yes.
And my contact information is up on that site that people can get in touch with me. And Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Now, Fran, one of the biggest reasons why I started this podcast was to show that no matter who you are, no matter what no matter where you come from, no matter what your circumstances are, we as human beings, we share a human core. We share a common core. There is an innate unity that has kind of been tampered with due to things like racism, war, just the way our society is structured. Now, my question for you is that since going through your transitions, how would you say that has affected your ability to see the unity or the potential for unity amongst our collective human race? How would you say that's changed for you before as to now?
Big change, big difference. For example, I mentioned that I grew up in this Italian American environment in Mount Vernon, which is in Westchester County, and it was basically a middle class, situation. 95% of the people were Italian American, and I found, which I didn't really know back then, I was just a young kid, that there was quite a bit of racism. And it's not always the case in Italian neighborhoods, but in this particular Italian American neighborhood there was. And I just lived with that. I pushed it down. I didn't like it. I didn't go along with it, but I also didn't speak up clearly enough against it.
Right.
And so that was like an unspoken thing. So I never really developed close relationships with other African American people, or even other Hispanic people, or Asian people, or people from other cultures, because I was brought up in this environment, and it was very stultifying.
Right.
So as I grew older, and my being trans, I had a greater appreciation for other people. I also, when I was a kid, I was told that girls do this and boys do this, and guys do that, and gals do that. And I learned that wasn't necessarily the case.
Right.
So as I grew up, I started accepting more of other people. Turns out my younger brother was gay. When I found that out, which I didn't find out until I was probably 30 years old, that also changed my perspective. So this all became unifying. With some people, I think it might end up leading them to sadness, that they can't live in a environment that is too filled with people not like them. In my case, I lucked out, I think, and through the help of other people in my life who showed me the light, including my daughter Kelly, who is very, very accepting of all kinds of people. In fact, we have a song called "We Are All Kinds of People." And so it just fortified it, being trans. So I started identifying more with women and what women do, and then that also made me realize, oh gee, black people have gone through this marginalization that some women feel that they've been going through, or LGBT people feel that they've been going through. So the more people I started meeting and being so involved in the arts and sharing, in this idea of sharing, the more I believe that people should unify wherever possible, and also do things like deliberately go out and where it's not comfortable. Go to, for example, I wrote this play, Italian Thing and Black Thing. It has some language in it or some scenes in it, some ideas in it that some people will find are not politically correct, but I did it for a reason, to stimulate conversation and discussion, which it did after we showed this for 2 days. There were 30-minute detailed Q&As and discussion afterward, and talk back afterward. And I'm extending the play right now. I've written the 4th scene. I'll be writing the 5th and then put it up again soon.
Nice.
So to answer your question, it helped me greatly in being an advocate for change and unifying. I still find sometimes I'm not completely there. You know, it takes me a little while to accept someone who has, say, who doesn't speak correct English. You know, I still have it in my head that they're not on par intellectually, which is ridiculous.
Sure.
But it's still that way from when I was a kid, you know?
Right.
So I catch myself and I go out of my way, and then now I've realized I don't speak Spanish.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And now when I see somebody struggling with the language, I think, wow, they're geniuses because they're doing two languages.
No kidding, yeah.
They're way further along in that
Yeah,
English than I am with any other language.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been an eye-opener, and I think really, someone said that the real goal in life is helping people to the other side.
Yes, yeah.
You know? And however you want to define that other side, whether it's to heaven, you know, or is it to better acceptance or whatever those goals are, but it's helping people, not just yourself. And it's through helping them that you yourself change.
That you're right.
So I've found that that every time I go out of my way to, it's not really, I don't feel it's out of my way. Every time that somebody asks me for, say, advice or perspective, and I give it to them about, say, transitioning or about making a change in their career to go from left brain to right brain or vice versa. It feels good to me. It feels good to me, and then they end up sharing it with other people. So it's.
Yeah.
I think this world. So I'm very hopeful for the world. The more that we have these situations. Actually, that even through the pandemic, when there was the difficulties, you know, with say police issues or whatever those were, we all, I think, came out of it more understanding and more respectful of other people, and I think that's having a very powerful effect on society.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I think that we still got a long way to go, but I think that conversations are being had that maybe certain people just weren't willing to listen before, and now it seems like there is an opening. I'm also, you know, very, very hopeful, and you know, it's true, because sometimes you can look out, you can watch the news, and you can be like, oh my God, the whole world is just going to hell, you know. But you know, I think that it's important to kind of take the lens back, to look at the bigger picture. I mean, there has been, you know, centuries of violence and turmoil amongst humankind. It's not just going to go away like that, unfortunately. Right. But you know, having the grace for our kind, our humankind, our human race, to, you know, evolve and grow and get through like this kind of pretty freaking uncomfortable period, but a period of growth nonetheless. Right. You know,
definitely a period of growth.
Yeah.
My father's mother, my grandmother Nani, she would always say to me, whenever I saw a problem or I would ask her guidance, especially when I was very young, like say under 15 or under 10 or so, she would say, Frankie, she used to call me Frankie, look for the silver lining. It's there.
Right.
And I always, you know, from when I was very young, I would always heed her message. And even in this time, there's so many silver linings that some of them we're not seeing. Some of us see them, some of us don't. And the more that we, some people would have changed, or say won't change. You make a suggestion or an approach to life or something, say about race or something, and they're deaf to it. They don't want to make a change. But because of this pandemic, everybody knows, and because of all of the upheaval from it, everybody knows that it's an important thing to do. So that person goes back at it again, and eventually the person will change or see it from another point of view.
Right.
So we have in us now, from having gone through this pandemic, a tremendous amount of strength from persistence.
Yes.
You know, the persistence that we have is knowing that it could be better. And you know what? It was good before, but it wasn't really good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever. So what? We may have had a bit more material wealth. It was easier to, whatever. Water ski and, and
Sure.
do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
easier to do things. But was that really life? Was that really better? Or I think what we got is the importance of being healthy, the importance of family, the importance of helping other people. And those are values, and seeing the silver lining, those are values that we couldn't have learned another way.
No,
I think it
no.
had to come through something like this.
I think it had to come through something like this too. I think just, oh man, the whole slowing down of just everything by this pandemic. Like I feel like, at least for me, this pandemic, like living through this, and yeah, because like on one hand it's like, oh, I'm in my early 20s, I should be out and like doing stuff, but the fact of the matter is that like I've gotten an opportunity to really get to, I mean, like we're talking about like authentically being yourself. I don't know, and I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I've got it all figured out. I know 100% I've got it all about me figured out. That's BS. But through this pandemic, it has given me time to really slow down and get to know myself on a deeper level than I ever did before, which is really profound.
Right.
Which is really, really, really profound.
Really, and will pay huge dividends in the future.
Yeah.
Because once you're there, which you are, then for the new challenges that come up,
right, and
they're going to come up.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to, there's going to be some heavy duty stuff coming up. I'm not wishing it to come, but there will be over, say, the next 30 or 40 years, when you look a longer stretch. My grandmother Nani went through the Depression, and she went through it with her parents died. She was young, and she was, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and she was taking care of her father. Her mother died, and her father was a baker and a butcher, actually. Butcher and a barber, right? He had those two, and he was always working. So my grandmother had to bring up the other 5 kids.
Wow.
At like 8 years old.
No kidding.
Yeah, she had it, and there was no woman in the house, and
Right.
the men, and father was out there. So, and she then was facing the Depression, because the Depression was happening then, and so they had very limited resources and stuff. So things like family and art and song and things like that became very, very important in her life.
Right.
Or making a very special, good meal and not taking things for granted, or just buying some. So we're going to have people who have been affected, say, negatively from this, which many people have, will see a positive, like you have. Will see a positive thing about their own personal growth.
Right.
Yeah. And strength from that.
Definitely.
So it's really, and I think we're going to see a lot of films and plays.
Yeah,
and books,
I think we're going to be getting a lot of pandemic. COVID. Yeah. Oh man, yeah. What a time to be alive, indeed. Fran. Anything that you would say to anybody out there who maybe they're like you said, maybe they're a minor who's going through gender confusion. Maybe they're somebody who's stuck in like a cycle of substance abuse or mental health or whatever it is. As somebody who has gone through a lot and come out the other side seemingly like reborn, reborn. What would you say to somebody out there who is still struggling?
I'd like to look at their camera and tell them,
please.
It will all work out. The best thing you can do, I think, is to try and to share whatever your ideas are and your concerns with several different, let's call them agencies. One is if you're a young person and your parents are still alive or still with you, with your parents, to start sharing with them. Another is with your close friends. Even though you may be subject to a little bit of ridicule or sometimes out of fear, some confusion on their part, push through it and share what your concerns are, what your thoughts are, and you may find that, so first is your parents, then your friends, then perhaps a teacher or a counselor or a priest or a rabbi or somebody in the community that you know and who knows you and knows your family. That would be one. And maybe the most important, the two most important would be to get honest with yourself, is to like really lay in bed at night and think very deeply and take some time for yourself. Take a long walk, start thinking about things for yourself, digesting what other people have said, mulling that over, going back to some of those people. And then the last and perhaps most important is whatever your concept of a higher power is, whether it's a traditional God, a monolithic being, or it's more of a pantheistic view of God. Maybe it's, scientific simulation idea, whatever it may be. Trust the universe and put it out there and start when the universe starts responding. See it as responses to your specific intention and request. And be happy. Strive to be happy and strive to smile. And now that I said strive to smile and be happy, I realized I didn't even tell one joke.
Yeah, we gotta have some.
I gotta tell, and maybe this ties together family and everything, right? So when I was first transitioning, when I decided I was going to transition, I had spent many years cross-dressing and stuff, but when I decided I was going to transition, I was imagining, okay, one day I'm going to show up at my parents' house looking like a woman, like a girl, right? And I thought my mom would eventually go for it, and she did, and I'll explain that after I tell you what my father said. My father was a real Italian macho guy, drove a motorcycle and all bit, and a real Italian American guy that black and white, thought black and white,
sure,
like left brain people.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, how am I going to bring this? How am I going to tell him that I like to wear a dress? I like the feeling of stockings. I like to go like this with my hair. How am I going to tell my father this?
Yeah.
I don't know what to. I said, I know what. I had an idea. I said, let me go to him and find out what he knows. Yeah. Because maybe he knows people already. Who knows? Maybe he knows about it. So I said, let me go find out what he knows. So I go to him one night and I said, Dad, you know about this LGBT stuff? And he said, oh, yeah, I know about that. I tried that. I said, Dad, you tried LGBT? He said, yeah, I tried it. I didn't like it. I like the bacon, lettuce, and tomato, but I didn't like the gorgonzola. You know? So they told me that he didn't know much about LGBT. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, I came out to him. When I would walk into the room, he would say, "Hey, Frankie, what are you doing this for? You're a good-looking guy. Why are you doing?" But eventually he accepted me, and so did my mom. My mom, when I came out to her, she was confused because she always saw me as a good father and as a husband and as a son and everything, and thought of me that way. So she was confused. She also confused it with sex, and she thought that then inferred that I was gay,
right?
And there was my brother was HIV positive, and that brought up some health issues and stuff like that, so she was concerned about that. But despite that, I said, I got to transition. I'm going to go to her every day looking a little better. I go to her the first day. She looks at me like, wow, because my mom was a very good looking woman, and nicely dressed, nice look and everything. So second day, third day, each day I went to her, I had a different thing on. I was getting a little bit better with the makeup and stuff. Even though I had been cross-dressing for years, I wasn't. Now I'm trying to impress my mother.
Right,
On the seventh day, I walk in the house, right? She's sitting in the living room, and I had rang the bell, and they came, and they know it's going to be me now. So I walk in the door, and she looks at me, and her eyes brightened, and she had a smile on her face. And instead of calling me Frankie, she said, "Fran, you look good today." And my head went up to the clouds. I was feeling really good. And then she said, she had a bit of dementia too. "You even have a glow about you." So I said, "Mom, you think I'm pregnant?" And she said, "You are?"
Oh God!
Because of the dementia.
Right.
I said, "No, I can't be pregnant." And then she says, "Oh, that's right. You're too old."
Wow! Oh man! Man!
So that was that helped me along. That was in the first week of my transition.
Oh my God! What a gem!
They end up respecting it. My dad died about 8 months after that, and had his funeral. Most of my relatives still didn't even know that I had done this. So I had, some people said to me, "You're not going to go as a female to your father's funeral, are you?" I said, "Yeah, that's who I am now." And I showed up, and every person to the last person came up to me and said, "God bless you. We love you." Wow.
Yeah. No, take your time. Yeah.
And so for people out there that whether it's transitioning gender or coming out about their sexuality, or deciding that they're going to quit that job that they don't like and they're going to start their own business, or vice versa, whatever it is, or that they want to be a gymnast,
Sure.
Do it. Life is short, as this pandemic is teaching us too. And people will accept you just like my parents accepted me. And it was very unusual for an Italian-American family to accept their son transitioning to female. Very, very unusual. And it was because of them and their beautiful spirit, and also because of my persistence of getting to my true self. That's about time, So that's it's a long answer to your question about
Fran,
what my recommendation is to people.
Thank you. That's all I have to say to that. Just thank you. This is you have given me everything that I wanted and more. So you just you are an absolute
It is a pleasure. I have so much value our friendship. And,
yes,
absolutely. I look forward to working with you very much.
As do I. Is there any final thoughts you want to share? You want to throw out there?
Beside that, I just built it up. I just went through that whole
No, you
thing.
did. That was a beautiful climax.
Ending.
It really was. I know. I should have just been like, all right, bye, guys. That's it.
And maybe about the higher power. I remember many nights laying in bed when I was like 8, 9, 10, and praying. I used to pray very much personally to Jesus Christ, being a Roman Catholic, and praying that I would, by morning, magically turn into a female. You know, that's how much I would pray and pray and pray about it. And you know, it didn't happen that I magically turned in then, but I think I magically turned in now.
I think you do.
And I think that prayers are answered, and you gotta, and prayers and intention, and it is through the grace of God or a higher power, whatever you want to say, universe, and also the grace of people that I believe that higher power works through.
Yes.
So look for those silver linings in your life, and look for those angels that are being sent to help guide you in your life. So that's and I look forward to seeing you in the audience of either a radio show or a talk show or a TV show or a play or a film or whatever. So please connect with me. I'd love to get to meet you.
Oh yeah. Fran,
Connor, thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. Bring her in.